There are several benefits to sticking with what you are familiar with and meeting expectations. Midway through the 1980s, US cable channel Cinemax carved out a niche for itself by producing more exploitative content than its rivals. It replaced the disappearing grindhouse in drive-ins as a haven for individuals who enjoy plenty of violence and nudity in their movies. It was no accident that it was given the moniker Cinemax. If alien visitors were to judge humanity only on the basis of their viewing of Cinemax, they would view us as a people who revere Chuck Norris and Shannon Tweed. So, the channel went back to its core principles when the time came for it to create its own original programming. The end result is the beautiful Banshee. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel for another exciting review. Today I'm gonna review the series Banshee, which was a Cinemax TV released in 2013. The series was an action crime drama created by David Schickler and Jonathan Tropper. The series has a rating of 8.4 on imdb and has a score of 91% on Rotten Tomatoes. The series' main lead cast consists of Anthony Starr, who played as Homelander in the most anticipated series on Amazon Prime, The Boys. Also have Ivana Milicevic and Ulrich Thompson in the supporting lead. Banshee consists of 4 seasons with 10 episodes each. The series sets in a small town Banshee of Pennsylvania. Before starting the review, please subscribe to my channel so that I can bring to you more exciting reviews in the future. So let's start the review. Banshee, Pennsylvania, a fictional tiny town, serves as the setting for the film. The unnamed protagonist, Anthony Starr, who served 15 years in prison for robbing Ukrainian mobster Rabbit, Ben Cross, of jewels, travels to Banshee to track down his co-conspirator and ex-lover Anastasia, Ivana Milicevic. The protagonist discovers that she is now a married mother of 2 who goes by the alias Carrie Hopewell when he finds her. Later, after the town's new sheriff is assassinated, the main character assumes the name of Lucas Hood and leads the community using his own unique set of unconventional techniques. In Banshee, Hood struggles to adjust to his new persona while contending with the schemes of the neighborhood crime boss Kai Proctor, Ulrich Thompson, and keeping Rabbit at bay. I can cheerfully admit that this is one of the most dramatic and compelling first seasons of any program I've ever watched, despite the fact that I knew very nothing about Banshee before I started watching it. I'm happy that I was able to avoid getting spoiled, so I went into it completely blind. In Banshee, Anthony Starr plays an anonymous protagonist who assumes the moniker Hood. Despite being a career criminal who has spent his life stealing, he somehow manages to be sympathetic while also being an absolute badass. We need to see more of Anthony Starr on our screens. The town of Banshee was peaceful before he arrived, but no matter where he goes or what he does, violence is never far away. It's almost as like he is hooked to risk and can't stay out of trouble. When he pretends to be Sheriff Hood, he starts hitting on pretty much all the women in town, which makes for a surprising number of laughs because he can be standing there and a woman will glance at him and he'll say, "And you are," before cutting to them having sex. Despite this, Anastasia, now known as Carrie, Hood's former lover and accomplice who is now married and has children, is the only person he truly loves. She is the real reason he came to Banshee, and his love for her drives all he does. Banshee is truly a love story despite all the casual sex and violence, so don't let that turn you off. Every episode contains a battle sequence, which is typically extremely bloody and violent with many shattered limbs. Hood seemed to enjoy every fight, almost chuckling every time he is struck as though he finds enjoyment in it. The supporting cast is all top-notch, including the outstanding Frankie Faison as Sugar, the neighborhood bartender who lets Hood reside in a room adjacent to the bar. With Hood around, his life is so much more intriguing, and he is simply a good man looking for some action. Then there is Job Hoon Lee, who virtually steals every episode with his profane and funny outbursts. He is the brains behind the operations and a computer wizard, so if someone wants their computer hacked, he is the one you want to contact. One of my favorite characters is Kai Proctor, who is absolutely repugnant but nevertheless manages to be endearing due to his charisma. His bow-tie-wearing henchman Burton is also pretty unsettling and just as merciless as Kai Proctor. Carrie/Father Anastasia's Rabbit, Ben Cross from Undisputed 2, has never forgiven her or Hood for stealing from him, therefore he has been chasing them, which will of course lead up to an inevitable and violent battle. Proctor is a villain, but he isn't the primary bad of the show, so far. Carrie/Anastasia, who manages to betray absolutely everyone she knows, including her own father, Hood, and her husband, is the one person I haven't been able to warm up to. She is at least reasonably pretty and frequently strips off, which is always a plus. Emmett, Brock, and Siobhan Kelly, 3 local police officers, are all wonderful people and even better officers, but when it comes to town, their lives are all changed for good or worse forever. There is perpetual friction between them due to Brock's initial resentment and his belief that he should have been sheriff. Although he has his own problems, Brock is perhaps the genuine protagonist of the series because he just wants what is best for the town. This show isn't for the faint of heart because it occasionally gets quite dramatic, which raises my blood pressure. The violence may be quite disturbing at times, and possibly one of the best episodes features Carrie battling one of her father's thugs for the whole episode. Dava Hopewell has several qualities that I find annoying, and while she never elicits even a hint of sympathy, she is merely a minor character and doesn't yet detract from the main story. Overall, Banshee is a terrific choice if you're searching for classic action television. It features excellent characters, lots of brutal action, and stunning, rarely dressed, women. What is there to dislike?
Banshee's a town like any other town. And like any other town, we have our darkness, our secrets.
A former felon named Lucas Hood poses as a lawman in Season 2. A special agent with the FBI who starts looking into the shooting that took place between Hood and Czar Rabbit. Carrie makes an effort to mend fences with her daughter, Gordon, and husband. Problems between the Amish community and the Kinaho tribe are brought on by a horrifying murder. Lucas and his colleagues come up against a Kinaho biker gang while conducting the inquiry. To stop the fighting between the two factions, Proctor takes matters into his own hands and presents a peace offering to the Kinaho. Carrie and Lucas travel to New York to face Rabbit one last time. Season 2 is just as intense as Season 1 since we get additional flashbacks from Hood's time in prison. But, in the present, Hood has settled into his role as sheriff, and because of the events of Season 1, Carrie has been sentenced to 30 days in prison. You'll be on the edge of your seat the entire time, wondering what horrible thing will occur next. Personally, I believe that the Rabbit plot should have come to an end in Season 1. Carrie/Anastasia shooting him was the ideal conclusion, and that was the proper course of action as opposed to prolonging it into this season. This time, however, it is finally settled, therefore Season 3 will introduce a fresh antagonist. I hope. There isn't a brand new bad guy, but Hood and Proctor grow increasingly hostile toward one another. Hood effectively declares war on Proctor and vows to eliminate him once and for all. This is so that Proctor can kill the real Sheriff Hood's son after discovering him having sex with his niece Rebecca, who is essentially the town slut who sleeps with anybody. Rebecca is practically the town slut. She is actually rather lovely, though, and this season, as a result of being duped by Proctor and gradually beginning to embrace the evil side, her character grows. Because Proctor is such an intriguing character, even if you know he is a horrible monster, Ulrich Thompson does a fantastic job portraying him. One of the most heartbreaking scenes in the entire series is when his estranged mother visits him when he is in prison. Other side tales include the murder of a native girl who was having an illicit relationship with an Amish kid and the introduction of Chayton Littlestone, who will probably return for more in Season 3. There are, of course, a number of action-packed, thrilling episodes, but this time around I didn't think there were as many battle sequences. The highlight, in my opinion, was a particularly stunning truck decapitation. Emmett's tale was especially heartbreaking because it shows him and his wife fighting off some local neo-Nazis, which can be difficult to watch at times, especially when his wife is attacked, who was pregnant at the time. Emmett's vengeance is immediate and fulfilling, but it will only last so long because we know the Nazis won't let things stand still. When watching Banshee, I had the thought that if I were Native American, I would be really irate because they aren't at all favorably depicted. Instead, they are portrayed as dishonest or criminals, and Alex Longshadow in particular is never even close to being sympathetic. Nola might be attractive, but she is also rather insane and not someone you would want to cheer for. Even though not everyone will live to see Season 3, everything leads to a reasonably gratifying conclusion, and I'm curious to see where the plot goes from here. Overall, Season 2 has a tendency to drag out the Rabbit storyline excessively, but at least it has enough action to keep viewers entertained until Season 3 can start off fresh.
are here, all of us, to fight in a war.
The third season of this criminal drama continues to follow the escapades of an ex-con named Lucas Hood, Anthony Starr, who poses as a lawman in the sleepy Pennsylvanian town of Banshee. With rabbits passing, Lucas begins the season by trying to get a dangerous new job, Ben Cross. Odette Annabelle's Nola, Banshee, reappears and confronts Burton. The FBI reveals Hood's secret and makes a threat to do so. Chayton, Gino Seegers, and the Redbones attack the station, sparking a full-scale conflict. With nearly too many highlights to list, season may 3rd be my favorite, and it features two major antagonists, besides Proctor Chayton Littlestone, who was introduced in season 2, and Colonel Douglas, Langley Crickwood, both of whom will push our heroes to their physical and mental limitations. With his peculiar code of honor and desire to uplift his tribe beyond what he sees as the injustice of the white man, Chayton is one of the most intriguing villains on this program. Unfortunately, Chayton is also a violent maniac who kills everybody in his way, so even big cast members aren't safe despite his enormous size and one of the greatest voices in television. One of the many wonderful aspects of this program is that even if it's one of the leads, they could still die at any moment, keeping you always on edge. Watch as Burton engages Nola Longshadow in a savage brawl in episode 3 for one of the season's best action scenes, which still manages to shock with some of the most graphic violence of any TV show. As a result, Nola has her windpipe pulled off, which was really rewarding because they never managed to make her even the slightest bit sympathetic. As a result, when she dies, we genuinely applaud. Eventually, in episode 5, Chayton attacks the police station, which, according to the synopsis, sparks an all-out conflict with dreadful repercussions. I believe Langley Kirkwood was excellently cast as the slightly insane Colonel Douglas because of his fierce manner and his threat to murder you. When Hood and his men plunder his base, he completely loses it, which causes a stunning and intense fight. The last episode features an enormous shootout at an army facility as well as David Harbour, who I didn't know was playing a mystery CIA type. He's excellent in these kinds of roles. Again, Kai Proctor is a fantastic character who appears to be going through some type of redemption journey this season as he begins dating Brock's ex-wife. It is fleeting because he eventually comes to terms with the kind of man he truly is, and in that instant, he virtually becomes the devil personified. Although she is very much becoming Kai's protege and learning the techniques of his company, his niece Rebecca regretfully doesn't get naked in this season, boo. She also tends to do more harm than good to the ties between Proctor and his clients. The show challenges us to look past Kurt Bunker's stunning tattoos because, after all, how can we support someone who was a member of a brotherhood of hate? Kurt Bunker is a new character who is a former neo-Nazi who wants to join the police department. He is played by Tom Pelphrey. Pelphrey is a real revelation in this show because he gives Kurt such intense emotion that every time he is on screen, people are captivated. As almost every negative event in this town is a direct result of Sheriff Hood's presence, he continues to be the same shit magnet he always was. You have to start believing that Sheriff Hood will die in the series finale. He really doesn't deserve happiness. But Anthony Starr is amazing, and I continue to believe that we need to watch him in more films and TV shows. Overall, Season 3 is a complete knockout with scenes of pure misery in both the emotional and action departments. It's as dramatic as ever and leaves us with a huge cliffhanger, so I need to watch Season 4 ASAP.
The past has kept you locked up long enough. I gotta know that I can trust you. I still have so much to lose.
This criminal drama's 4th season continues to follow the antics of an ex-con who poses as Lucas Hood, a lawman in the quiet, unassuming Pennsylvania town of Banshee. In the first episode of the series, Lucas returns to Banshee after a 2-year absence in search of Job and a serial killer. Finally, we reach the 4th and final season of Banshee. I took my time viewing this season since I didn't want it to end.
I don't have much of my life that
I'll miss Hood, Proctor, Job, Sugar, and the rest of the gang, what adventures they had, and this program did conclude nicely, I must admit. It's one of the most genuinely satisfying series finales to a TV show in recent memory because everything is neatly wrapped up and no questions are left unanswered. This season, which takes place around 20 months after the events of Season 3, has a totally different vibe from the others because everyone has suffered such great losses. Grief and grieving are a major topic in this season. The story begins with Brock, now the sheriff, entering a cottage in the woods and finding an extremely unkempt Hood inside, replete with a large beard and long hair. I wasn't sure how I felt about it at first since I didn't like seeing Hood so hurt, but you have to realize that he would undoubtedly be crushed given what he has been through and seen in his life. The thing is, even after the end credits roll, we still don't learn his real name, so he continues to be a mystery. Soon we learn that Hood is the only suspect in the murder of Proctor's niece Rebecca. As usual, things go worse before getting better, but ultimately we learn that there is a serial killer in town who was friends with Satan and enjoys offering girls as sacrifices in cruel rites. Banshee was never an easy watch since it constantly pushed the limits of on-screen violence. The tone is different from what has come before, and it's possibly the grimmest season. Hood is no longer the sheriff and is much more on the fringe as he reluctantly joins forces with FBI agent Veronica Dawson, Eliza Dushku, as they search for Rebecca's killer. But I did find that Hood himself didn't really have that much to do this time. Once further demonstrating that Banshee is almost like purgatory where people come to do some type of penance for prior wrongdoings, Dawson herself seems a touch crazy but also has her own demons. I was surprised that Hood stopped up seeking for Job, Hoon Lee, so fast after he was taken at the conclusion of Season 3, but that is only one of many things that, quite simply, have hurt Hood's psyche. Job, Hoon Lee, is still missing today. Hoon Lee is the real discovery of this season. He actually looks like he has been through hell, and the parts where he is being tortured are almost intolerable to watch as you feel like you are right there with him. Of course they find Job and rescue him. The banter between Job and Sugar quickly made him one of my favorite characters, and it added some much-needed humor. Proctor, who is currently the mayor of Banshee, is collaborating with the local Brotherhood to distribute drugs, but one local nutcase named Calvin Bunker doesn't like the Brotherhood selling out and intends to seize power by any means necessary. You know Calvin is going to snap, and when it doesn't let you down because Chris Coy portrays him as being completely out of control and barely hanging onto his sanity by a thread. As one of the neighborhood police officers, his brother Kurt, Tom Pelfrey, their relationship is at best strained. We know at the conclusion of this season the brothers will have a showdown for the ages because Kurt just so happens to be hitting Calvin's wife behind his back, which is not helpful. I ultimately realized that Burton, Matthew Rauch, reminds me of Smithers, but Proctor resembles Mr. Burns, and I adore his character. Burton is a complete badass who is largely unstoppable during some of the fantastic combat sequences, albeit he is a touch more wicked than the Simpsons character.
I don't know.
He continues to be one of the show's top characters because of his bow tie, lifeless eyes, and icy demeanor. He had a terrific sequence with Sugar in Banshee, Origins, where he recalls his father's favorite song and gives us a brief insight of his past. There are still plenty of beatdowns in, as I said, the final episode doesn't let you down, so by the time the end credits roll your bloodlust should at least be, temporarily, satisfied. However, you can tell the show is winding down this season because it lacks the spectacular action of the previous ones, at least for the first few episodes. You would be hard-pressed to find anything disappointing about Banshee Season 4, even though it is 2 episodes shorter than the previous seasons due to the way everything is resolved. Hood might have been a bit more of a supporting character, but that is a minor quibble in yet another excellent season.
The way you pace. I'd say you're more criminal than cop.
Thanks for watching.
So what happened?
If you like the review, please let us know by leaving your comments in the comments box, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. See you in the next video. By then, take care.